Okay, so in this video, I'm going to be talking about my top 15 favourite films from 1981. Um, these are all in accordance with the release dates from IMDb, and again, these are just my top 15 personal favourite films from this year. There's no actual true definitive list. These are just the ones that I enjoyed the most from this year. So that being said, I'm going to get into a few honourable mentions for me from 1981. So to start out with, I've got Warren Beatty's sort of historical war epic Reds. Really good film. Sort of Greek mythology film with Clash of the Titans. The historical epic Excalibur, great retelling of the King Arthur story. Next up, I've got Joe Dante's werewolf film, The Howling, great creepy movie. Got Sean Connery in Outland, great sort of sci-fi thriller. Early film from Wes Craven with Sharon Stone, Deadly Blessing. Really good early horror film from him. My last honourable mention is Disney's The Fox and the Hound. Great sort of coming of age story about a fox and a hound who inevitably have to grow up and realise that they're going to be enemies. So yeah, they're my honourable mentions for 81. As I say, not terrible films, just didn't quite make the list of my favourite films. So I'm going to start off with number 15 for me, and that is Dudley Moore in Arthur. Not a great movie, but a good movie. Thoroughly enjoyable. Bit of a predictable plot. It's sort of about a guy who's a bit of a drunk, a bit of an alcoholic, but he's heir to a massive fortune. And his parents basically tell him, "We want you to marry this girl. If you don't marry her, you'll be cut off from the fortune. You won't inherit a penny." And obviously he meets and falls in love with Liza Minnelli's character. And you can probably guess from that sort of plot where the film goes. Bit predictable, but there's something about this film. It's got a heart of gold. This film, really really hard to dislike. Thoroughly enjoyable, and great song from Christopher Cross as well. The If You Get Caught Between the Moon and New York City song. Yeah, I actually really enjoyed this one. Definitely worth a watch if you've not seen it. It's coming in at number 14 for me is Eye of the Needle with Donald Sutherland. So this film pretty much follows Donald Sutherland's character, who's comes to the UK from Germany, and he's a German spy during World War II. And the guy is just completely slimy and horrible, and murders a lot of innocent people as soon as he sort of gets threatened or his cover could be blown. But if you ever watch a film and you really dislike the antagonist and want them to see their comeuppance, this is one to watch. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. Thought it was really quite underrated. Same director as Return of the Jedi. Yeah, I really enjoyed this one. So coming in at number 13 for me is an early sort of Bill Murray and Harold Ramis film, and that's Stripes. So it's pretty much about two guys who are sort of like down on their luck and just want a change in their life, so they end up joining the army. It's a great comedy and great sort of precursor to the minds of Ghostbusters. John Candy's in this as well, who's great in everything he's in. Yeah, Definitely worth a watch if you've not seen it. Put a smile on my face. Let's say that. So yeah, coming in at the number 12 spot for me is a film I actually caught the end of on television when I was really young. It was on really late at night. But I didn't actually catch the title of the film. It wasn't until years later that I saw it again and was like, oh yeah, that's that film I remember seeing when I was younger. And that's Terry Gilliam's Time Bandits. Yeah, how to describe this one? It's sort of about this group of dwarfs who are time travelers, and they meet this kid called Kevin, and they sort of take him on their adventures. They end up meeting Robin Hood, traveling back to ancient Greece, meeting Agamemnon, Napoleon. They end up going on the Titanic as well as it sinks. And a great sort of creepy ending with David Warner as the villain. The design of his costumes just awesome and terrifying. But yeah, no, the film just drips with the fingerprints of Terry Gilliam's imagination as well. His style is so unique to him. It just comes across and leaps out of the film. Yeah, hugely enjoyed this one. So coming up next for me, the number 11 spot is the German war film Das Boot. Really long epic, this one. I think it comes in at about 4 hours. And it pretty much is really good sort of submarine tactical movie. Following this German submarine that's trying to get back home in time for Christmas. Really claustrophobic as well. Like you feel as if you're down there on the submarine with the crew. Yeah, I love this one. Some of the scenes are great. The opening scene, which is just pretty much this: you're in the bottom of the thick ocean and you see the submarine approaching. Really good stuff, this one. So coming up next for me, the number 10 spot is an early Brian De Palma film starring John Travolta and Nancy Allen, and that is Blowout. So pretty much the premise to this film is John Travolta's like this sound technician who works on movies. And one night he captures a recording of a car crash, and he captures something on his recording that could lead to like a political scandal that could ruin a politician's career, pretty much. John Lithgow's in there as well as the villain, with a really, really good horrifying ending to this as well, involving him trying to strangle someone. Not to give too much away, but yeah, definitely worth checking out. If you like sort of like suspenseful mystery thrillers, definitely one worth a watch. So coming in at my number 9 spot for me is actually the film that won Best Picture this year, is Chariots of Fire. Great sort of British movie that takes place during the 1924 Olympics in France. Pretty much sort of follows the rivalry between this Englishman and this Scotsman in the running events. Yeah, wonderfully acted as well. Something about this film that is quite charming. I don't know if it's got that British charm to it, but it's really enjoyable. The soundtrack by Vangelis as well is just on point. It's amazing. Yeah, if you want to sort of like complete your list of Best Picture winners, definitely check it out. It's a good one. It's coming in at number 8 for me is, I believe, Roger Moore's fifth outing as James Bond, and that is For Your Eyes Only. Great song by Sheena Easton, this one. It's probably one of my favourite Bond themes. Yeah, really enjoy it. In terms of the film, it opens up where it sort of ties up the loose ends with the Blofeld character, who killed James Bond's wife earlier in the series. But it's not actually confirmed that it is Blofeld due to the legal issues the Bond films were having at the time. So, bit of a twist in this one as well, where it sort of follows Bond meets this ally who he believes to be an ally, and he also meets an enemy as well, but it's actually the other way around. The ally turns out to be the enemy, and the enemy turns out to be the ally. It also, as well, probably has one of like the darkest moments in the Roger Moore era, is when sort of Bond takes revenge on a villain by kicking his car off the cliff while he's inside. And I know Roger Moore wasn't a huge fan of that scene. He just felt like it's something Bond would do, but it's not something his Bond would do. Just didn't feel right for him, which I kind of get and kind of understand, but it sort of doesn't really take me out the movie. Great rock climbing scenes at the end as well. Great skiing scene as well. Great underwater stuff. Yeah, just some really good set pieces in the film for me as well. One of his probably underrated Bond outings, I think. So coming up next for me at the number 7 spot is the film that actually won Best Actor and Best Actress, and that's On Golden Pond. Henry Fonda in this is just absolutely brilliant, and the actress who plays his daughter, Jane Fonda, is actually his daughter in real life as well. So this film's probably a masterpiece in sort of character arcs, and how we start off at the film with a character who believes in this way of life, and by the end of the film, it's sort of evolved and changed. So he's sort of like a pretty stubborn guy who's got a bit of an estranged relationship with his daughter. Kind of like a bit of a tough guy to get along with. He's pretty set in his ways in life, as the guy's unfortunately coming towards the end of his life with his age, but the film really focuses on relationships and how relationships can change, and how it's not too late to remedy those relationships that have sort of gone sour. But I really enjoyed it. Great setting as well on the lake itself. Yeah, just a fantastic film. Wonderfully acted, and I believe when Henry Fonda actually won the Oscar, his daughter was there to pick the award up for him, and I believe she said he was filming, which is why he couldn't pick it up. But actually, he was sat at home watching the ceremony. Yeah, really good uplifting film. If you've not seen it, definitely worth checking out. So coming up next for me at the number 6 spot is the first film in a Sam Raimi trilogy, and that is The Evil Dead. So this film is just 100% positively creepy in every single way, down to the acting, the makeup, the music, the direction, the camera work is just it's all like a jigsaw puzzle that just fits together so well. So it pretty much follows these group of friends that end up staying at this cabin, and it looks like an absolute shithole. Yeah, and they find this Book of the Dead, and there's a recording there, and there's an inscription, and it's read aloud, and it pretty much allows the students to be possessed by this sort of demon entity, and the makeup on them is just absolutely terrifying. The effects in the film are absolutely brilliant for its time. The stop motion, the blood, the gore is completely on point. The only scene in it that's really a bit questionable, that doesn't stand up, is the tree raping scene. But yeah, no. Definitely worth checking out. It's a film that you can tell the people who made it were having a blast making it. And we as an audience pretty much have a blast watching it. It is just, it's unique. There's not really another film like it. You can't, it's difficult to compare to other films that sort of came out before it. Yeah, just really good horror film. It's another one to watch on a big screen with the lights turned off. Yeah, hugely entertaining and hugely enjoyable. It's coming in next for me at the number 5 spot is John Carpenter's Escape from New York with Kurt Russell. Not a film I enjoyed the first time I saw it. Gave it another chance, and yeah, saw it for the masterpiece it was. So it's set in the future where New York's pretty much been cordoned off, and that's now become the prison in America where everyone's sent to who breaks the law. And gangs are formed in there, and it's not a safe place at all. So what actually happens is the president ends up getting stranded there, and Snake Plissken, played by Kurt Russell, is hired and recruited to go in and get the president out safely, pretty much. Get him out of this absolute hellhole. I won't spoil the ending, but there's a lot of colourful characters we meet along the way, and there's a lot of colourful characters we lose along the way. But yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. Hugely entertaining film. Yeah, followed by a bit of a lackluster sequel, to say the least. Not great. Not awful, but not great. Not great in the great scheme of things. But the first one, the original, Escape from New York, is just one of those sort of low budget masterpieces that accomplishes a lot with a little. Definitely worth checking out. It's coming in at the number 3 spot for me. No, sorry, beg your pardon. Number 4, jumping the gun there. Coming in at the number 4 spot is a film that is a sequel, and it's probably one of the best sequels, and that is Mad Max 2, otherwise known as the Road Warrior. So this sort of picks up from the first one and sort of cranks everything up to 11. It sort of follows Max, who's like this outsider, but groups have formed in this dystopian world, and fuels like become the most sought after item. The gangs in it themselves are quite dangerous people. The main sort of group of antagonists are led by Lord Humongous, sort of terrifying bloke in a ski mask. But the film itself is just absolutely insane in every single way. The acting's off the charts. The action is off the charts. The set pieces of the action chase sequences with the cars are just on point and entertaining. Absolutely fantastic. Just a great Mel Gibson film as well with him. I think all 4 films in the series, all 4 films were directed by George Miller. But yeah, just this great, gritty, dirty action movie that delivers 11 out of 10 on the entertainment scale. If you've not seen it or just bored, watch it. And if you have seen it, watch it again. It's great. So yeah, coming in at the number 3 spot for me is a much smaller, much slower film. I don't think it's a film a lot of people have heard of, but that is My Dinner with Andre. So the premise to this is basically the entire film has a runtime of about 2 hours, and it's completely set at a dinner table at a restaurant, and the film is basically the conversation between the 2 people having dinner. So the film stars Wallace Shaw, who is pretty much famous for The Princess Bride and Toy Story, and Andre Gregory. Wallace Shawn pretty much plays someone who's meeting and catching up with his old friend Andre to find out what he's been up to. And the conversations the 2 of them have are some of the most engaging and interesting conversations ever put to film. You actually feel as if you are part of the conversation and you want to chip into what's being said and what's being discussed. It almost like challenges you as a viewer, whether you agree or disagree with what's being discussed as well. Like, you want to sort of chime in and have a discussion with these people. But yeah, the acting between the 2 actors as well is on point. You just completely, from the first second, you're hooked and engaged and completely involved and invested. As I say, the film is pretty much set entirely in one room, which I know can put some people off. But as I said, the acting and the dialogue in the film is enough to keep you engaged and invested. Quite an underrated film, but one I absolutely really loved. So yeah, coming in at the number 2 spot for me is John Landis's An American Werewolf in London. A film that sort of blew my mind a little bit the first time I saw it. The acting in it's great, the story's great, the makeup and effects are great. One of probably the best ever werewolf transformation scene. The soundtrack to the movie is great and on point as well. Every song sort of has a reference to the moon in it. You've got like Blue Moon, Moon Dance, Bad Moon Rising. The film itself pretty much follows like these 2 travellers from America who end up at this village, and all the locals there tell them, keep off the moors when you go travelling. And of course, obviously, they don't. End up getting attacked by a werewolf, and one of them actually takes on the curse and becomes a werewolf himself. Ends up on each full moon going out and killing random people. The nightmarish fever dream scenes in it are great as well. The one stand out for me is probably. There's one scene where there's just this family like having a normal dinner, and the next thing these monsters just come crashing in to their house dressed as Nazis and murder them all. It's so grim and so random and so out of there, but it fits within the movie. Yeah, just a really, really good horror film. Ahead of its time with effects though as well. Really good. So coming in at the number one spot for me is possibly one of the greatest adventure films ever made. Seems the great team up of Spielberg and Lucas who could pretty much do no wrong in the 70s and 80s. And yeah, so that means my number one pick is Raiders of the Lost Ark. Yeah, as I said, great, if not the greatest adventure film with Harrison Ford. Coming off the back of the first two Star Wars films, introducing us to a brand new character, Indiana Jones. And as well, probably one of the most famous movie intros ever, where he's on the hunt for this golden idol, and ends up setting off all these booby traps and being chased by the boulder. So the main meat of the film is pretty much Indiana Jones is in a race to get the Ark of the Covenant. It's pretty much between him and the German Nazis at the time, trying to uncover this Ark and uncover its secrets. And what makes the film is the journey getting there. There's so many great scenes. There's the scene with the monkey and the poisoned dates. There's the scene with the guy with the sword, who's there ready to take on Indiana Jones, and Harrison Ford just pulls out his gun and shoots him. Who actually, they decided to do that because Harrison Ford was feeling ill that day, and they actually had a big fight scene set up, and they just decided to cut it short, which was to the movie's benefit. Great scene at the airport as well, where he's in a fist fight with Pat Roach's character, who's actually in all three of the original trilogy films as different parts. Great horrific ending to this film as well, when the Ark actually opens, and not to spoil it, but it's one that stays with you, and the effects still hold up great. I don't know how they did it, but yeah, it's like they've not really aged at all. But yeah, just fantastic movie. But it's not my personal favourite Indiana Jones movie. Actually, out of the original three, and this is an unpopular opinion, out of the original first three Indiana Jones films, it's my actually least favourite. My favourite is actually Temple of Doom, followed closely by The Last Crusade. But yeah, no, that is 2 for 2 for Harrison Ford, as he was also in my number one pick for 1980 as well. And just for spoilers, he's also in my number one pick for 1982 as well. I'm not going to say what that is in this video, but yeah, it was 3 for 3 with Harrison Ford, and kicking off the 80s with a bang. So yeah, they're my top 15 favourite films from 1981. I'm going to be back shortly with 1982, which is probably one of my favourite years for film. Yeah, with my top 20 from that year. Fantastic year, 82. So yeah, that year is an absolute treat. So yeah, hopefully I'll be back with that soon. And thanks very much for watching. Take care.